Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Grubstack. I don't know. I feel like they have like it's too hip for me, you know?
Oh, it's too hip.
Like it's like, ooh, I've got this bowl and I'm gonna put eggs and chorizo and barbecue, yeah. And you're like, come on, man, I just want.
It's too dry for me. There's no sauce on those things. At least not the one they made me.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't worth getting, right?
I think that's the last time I'll eat there. I ate it because I was on it. So I might have a sodium shot.
Yeah, seriously. I don't care as much about sodium, but I care a lot about. I mean, I don't like salty foods, but I care a lot about sugar. I'm trying my hardest to keep sugar out of my life.
That's good. If you're younger, I know you're younger than me. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Because see, I converted from cream sugar to black coffee.
I do milk. Just some milk. I try to do some milk. I sometimes do some chocolate milk, but I try to do just milk.
I cheat once a week.
Once a week? It's not bad.
Like a taro smoothie.
Yeah.
You know, like not super sweet.
Yeah.
But once a week.
Yeah. That's good. I think it's probably good balance, right? Then you're not depriving yourself of all the fun.
Family history of heart disease. If I could still, if I reach the age where my uncles had health problems and I'm still doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. How old are you?
45. Yeah, my uncle in his 40s already died.
Oh man, that's brutal.
Because of diet and lifestyle.
Yeah, my dad has pretty bad diet, but he works outdoors and does a lot of physical activity, so yeah, he's lucky. As soon as he stops that and he retires, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
All right, is everyone back? Pretty much. Let's see. All right. So here's the deal. Because today is a Saturday and the session is a Monday, Tuesday session, we have one last activity to do. I got everything else done before lunch. So this activity is it's going to take us about 40-45 minutes to do. We'll go through it. We'll see how people are feeling. We could take a little bit longer if we need to. And then we'll see where class is at when we're done, okay? So that to-do application that we did at the beginning of class, we all remember that, where you could enter some stuff in. To-do, no, Toso, to-do, bunch of stuff, right? And before, when we would refresh the page, we would lose everything. But now, if I refresh the page, well, it's still there. I refresh the page. You may not believe me, but if you watch, it flickers, yeah. So basically, we're taking that app, and we're adding the ability to persist this stuff in local storage. No cookies, no session storage, so local storage. And we're gonna make it work forever, so to speak, right? So you can actually have your first full-fledged working app right here, right? Has back end and everything. Okay, so we're gonna use the same groups we used earlier, or you know, if you want to add somebody to your group or move to a different group, that's fine. But just work in groups. This is activity number 8, and there's some hints with it too. You're gonna have to create a special array to hold the to-dos this time. You can't just use jQuery anymore. And you're going to have to find some way to turn that array into a string so you can put it in local storage, because you can't put an array directly into local storage. So they give you that hint, though, in the instructions. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and slack out the instructions. It's activity number 8. Work on it for the next 45 minutes, and then we'll go over it, and then we'll go over your homework, and we'll see how much time we got left. Yeah. Go nuts, man. Does one of the TAs want to slack out the solution to activity 1 again for everyone so it's recent? Thank you. So that file is the file you can start with, okay?
So we're going to use the solution.
Yep, you're going to use the solution from activity 1 and add local storage. Oh, I see. You don't necessarily need to do it as, you know, each to-do is in its own tree. You can put them all at once. Yeah, you could do that. I don't know what the limit is. But you can do it totally. You can put them all in individual trees.
So now you're going to change it from close No, I just don't put that. When I originally set this up, I set it up for this one accident. Now all I have to do is
I do not know.
If you guys wanted to, since this is a long activity, I'm fine if you worked out there too, and you don't have to stay in the class, you can collaborate. I'm not scared. I'll call you all back in. If you want to stay here, by all means, do that too.
then you say the story and you're ready. Or
Somebody give us commands if we want it, alright?
No, that's a function. It's a function that takes into a string of line. What was that? But then you do very little break. Can you unscrew the see when you unscrew the storage elements and then you have the parts that outside of that. So you can create that and load this and you'll hold it to the wall.
Activity number 8 is activity application we did in the beginning class. Starts with local storage. So, 45 minutes, we slack out the solution to activity 1. Start there. Add local storage, so you make sure your activity is go work wherever you want. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yes. Leave all of that. It's almost like I have like sit. And then the lens. The way JavaScript works is it runs through the entire thing, and then since this is in the lens, this is on the lens, the entire JavaScript is already running for the so it's stored in the if you use color, if you go to the store, that's what you So let's break it down. So there's a couple of
that actually work?
What was that?
Is the thing telling you lies up here?
No, he's on.
Let's not worry about it. Let's do it from the back. So this is how to activate it. So let's figure out. Set the to-dos in the list. So after you do all of this work, you go down the bottom. After that,
Crew is all working, walking around for 45 minutes. What's that?
Looks like fun, man.
They're like the world's worst stalkers.
I know, right? Oh, YouTube, huh? Cool.
Sick. Looks like a great activity.
Well, yeah, most of us are probably like, what are you watching?
Yeah.
Those favorite pictures, huh? You know, I was only 18 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was a wee little baby.
Why'd your family move here?
To get away from Russia.
I was gonna ask.
Yep.
But, yeah.
Yeah, they just wanted to leave because so I was born when the Soviet Union was still kind of like in effect. They fell in '93, which was like right. So I think they fell either right before or right after the migration. So yeah, we just want to get away.
Have you been back? Have you visited?
Only once.
I'm never calling.
Yeah, my dad's side of the family is still.
What do they think of it now?
Compared to what it used to be.
Well, compared to what it used to be, it's probably way better.
Yeah. I mean, it's all like all everybody ever talks about is like politics and like it's funny. Like my dad's mom is like under the impression that anybody who lives in America is immediately rich, and that they should be doing everything better than Russians. And like my dad's mom was giving him a hard time like right when he moved here. She's like, you know, why are you rich? My dad's like, just move here. Like,
What are you talking about?
It's not like they hand you $500,000 to go over the border.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
Immigrate, then immigrate back.
Yeah, and that's the whole mindset of it. Because they're like, oh, you're American, you must be rich. It's the movies. All the movies. Yeah, it's all the movies and everything. And you know what's interesting is they, so they're under that mindset where, like when we visited, my parents were like talking about some like politics and stuff going on. And they're really good friends that live there. They're like, hey, parents like, what's going on? I said, well, you know, the phones and everything. They don't like talk about anything like that. Because it's so corrupt there, like, you know, they don't know, so better to keep, you know, quiet about shit.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's that mentality, you know, when living here, so it's very, very odd.
Do they generally have, do the people generally have like a good perception of America or bad?
It depends on who you really are as a person. You know, like, so nobody smiles in Russia. Like, if you ever looked at pictures of Russian people, there's always no smile, no nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's that mentality of not like smiling leads to like making you look weak in a way. You know, it's very silly.
People are suspicious when you are.
Right. Yeah, like if they. Exactly. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
You must be a spy. Honest to the strangers.
Yep.
If you say something and about the weather, like I can tell you, like this is stupid. You know what's wrong? You know? It's not like, hey, how are you? Everything's great. You know, blah blah. Over there, it's like if you're not happy, just express that. I'm not happy. If you think that somebody is stupid, you say you're stupid. Somebody, you are that person, you are that.
Yeah.
It's like no filters. Strangers, I notice, I live in Poland, not that open like here, So yeah, it's on this, like if you're on the street, you just go to the stranger like, hey, how are you doing? How's your day going? Probably gonna tell you like, hey,
Hey, mind your business.
mind your
Yeah,
business.
basically, that's basically how it is.
But if you meet people like at class, at work, whatever, then, like for example, it's my colleague from school, and he told me like, hey, I need a place to stay for a month. No problem. I come to my place, I'm gonna teach you, I'm gonna make that you comfortable. So like if you get along with somebody, you got friends, then the culture is to take care of the person, especially if you invite your house. Because like here I notice, like if I talk to my colleagues like, hey, can I stay one night in place? No, mate, I don't know, I'm busy right now. So it's like, but on the street here it's cold and like, hey, how's your day going? Like everybody's like, hey, whatever.
It's almost like the total opposite.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
to the strangers, the Eastern Europeans are kind of on the distance. But if you met somebody and you become friends, it's totally different. It's just good to everything, help you and everything. It's like, I'm looking my stuff, I need somebody to help me in this future. No problem, I'm gonna come and help you. And for free, it's not like, because I'm gonna pay you, right?
It makes me wonder if some of that comes from like the sort of history of war stories. Like Americans have had it pretty good for a long time, and independently, right? Everyone had to survive on their own for the most part. They don't have to depend on one another, but I think those two countries, we got a bad standard. Stuff's really bad.
I think that cooling systems like being open because at time if you say something that maybe that government is against, you can be jailed or whatever. So there's no trust, so they're not that open on the street. Maybe 200 years ago, like Poland we lost independence like 175 years. Then we got independence for 20 years, and then again Second World War, and then cooling system for 50 years. So that 200 years with so many generations, we learned that you can't trust everybody outside. But then if you invite somebody, the Polish people, they trust the person after we get drunk. Because person will get drunk, it doesn't have to reserve, and then like, okay, I can trust the person. I cannot trust. So, we like to do
Is that why those countries drink so much then? So they can establish.
It's just part of the culture, but for the most part, like it also depends on like really where you live. Like where I was born, my parents used to live in Russia. It's called a Zhuzhok, which is like kind of like in the ghetto, if you will. And basically what it was for is like, so they built a bunch of apartments around like a factory. That factory workers can essentially walk to work and back at home. But those workers, they didn't make a lot of money, so whatever they got, they go to the store and buy some vodka, go home for a drink. That was just just rinsing and repeat. It's like essentially the whole thing. That's why that culture is. They nobody really likes them just because there's always drunk people and they're always mad and angry about shit. But yeah, that's what my parents wanted to be able to do. Otherwise, I'd probably be in the probably. That'd probably be
I was 10 years old when we changed the system. So I remember
Yeah?
it was like as a kid, I was happy. I had happy when I met friends who both play soccer and I went to school. It was right for me. I didn't live in another country to see the difference, so for me that was the life. And as a kid, I didn't have a problem. I was happy. There's so many things like purchasing the product. Some items being the money currency, and as well the coupons, vouchers we receive from our work. So for example, you want to purchase sausage, every month you gather 2 months, so you have some coupons, like you can purchase 10 kilograms of sausage. So if you go to the butcher and you want to purchase that, you have to have the currency and as well as people. So you have these coupons, even if you got 10 times more currency, you're not gonna get.
Oh, wow.
The delivery in the butcher shop was like twice per month. So when the delivery was coming, everyone knew about it. So it's a huge queue. The purchase, because after a few hours, the shop was everything was sold out, and then you had to wait another week. And it's when you have to good friendly with that person who works in the butcher shop, because the person can decide to sell it or not to sell it. There was no customer service. There was no marketing. Everything was done in the government. We had 2 TV channels, only 2, and no commercials because there was not as private like companies, you know, so there's no promote something to make the profit. So like when you watch the movie, nothing was interrupting you with some kind of other company to watch that movie. Interesting was that we had just TV channels, and always I could find something to watch. Now I've got 500 channels. After 1 hour of clicking, I can't find anything interesting to watch. At that time, everything was interesting. Programs about some kind of different things, you know.
Problem with choice, man.
Yeah, it's like going to the supermarket. At that time, we had like 2 kinds of bread. And you go and you have 2 kinds, you buy, and you have your house. Now we come to the supermarket.
500 types of
Like how
bread.
many bread, which one? And you buy, and then like, I should buy that one. You know, happy about it. So it was kind of, there was like 3 markets producing the furniture for the kids. So, and of course we have furniture for the second level, some classes, because they were expensive. But if you want to buy the new one, it's kind of different. You go to some people and you got the same stuff everywhere because there was no and car. If you want to buy a car, you have to do application and wait 2 years until they give you the car. The trading was only in this countries, Ukraine, or Ukraine, Russia, Czechoslovakia, Czechoslovakia, you know, Romania, all of that. They didn't trade in the Western countries. So, and because the inflation was huge, the country wasn't serious about making money. So everything was losing value, so the inflation, the currency was going down. There was no homeless, no unemployed people. If you need a job, they're gonna create new positions. They're gonna use the money or whatever. It's just, there's no homeless. There's no unsafe people. They were trying to live in this house. It's not like private house. You got married, you're gonna have 6 kids. If you got 1, then you apply to get the 2 back. There was no living rooms. You leave one of the rooms is living room that you see. So then, like my father, he was officer, highway officer in the army. So there was 3 of us, 3 kids. We had 4 bedrooms. So yeah, if you got more kids, then you apply to get better apartment. But and you have to wait. But somehow country was building the apartments. The architecture was just square, gray. The country is trying to invest money on landscaping, like the whole area was just like clean, nice flowers. Basic, you know, you got grass with the you have grass, but you're not allowed to walk on the grass. Because the type of the grass was like this. If you walk on that, there's no grass. So it's funny because like you go to the place and you got nice grass and everything, but you're not allowed to go and get down. No way paper. It was hard to get a toilet paper. It was shortage on the product. So 2 ways you could get that. One of the ways, you collect collect the newspaper. So you buy newspaper. So you collect that, then you go to the special place. They weigh, and they're like, okay, you brought 50 kilograms of toilet paper, please in the drawer. And you're like, yeah, that's very good. Because some people, when they get toilet paper, they hang that around their neck after going from work off, you apply the paper. Most of my childhood, we used newspaper to do that because, you know, sometimes like my family used to have more benefits because my father, because he was in that in the army, he had more coupons, vouchers, by meat, or by sugar, or some kind of food stuff, and as well, like the salary was not huge difference. And so then it didn't make a difference, like, oh yeah, I want to be very smart and get focus when you're in university. Because the money you're gonna make is not huge difference when you finish someone's, I don't know, school. System is more created about everybody's corruption. Corruption in the government or the officials is so they try to be their greedy, so they're always taking more. So it makes sense. It was interesting.
Yeah, it's so different.
There were special shops in the Western district to purchase Western products like alcohol, whiskey, some kind of Western clothes, chocolate. And so those shops are in the Western British, American. Only the shops can buy the products using American products. The currency system was really good for foreign currency. You couldn't go to the bank and exchange that. So, and as well, the dollar is not expensive. I know, but if you have American products, go there and purchase something. So my uncle from Canada, he came and gave me $20. So first I went to the shop and I bought the Lego. So I was the first in the school having the Lego. So I was making that. I was kids were playing the Lego. I had that stopwatch. I was watching them. They're not gonna steal anything. They were coming and they were like playing with the money, toys, some kind of cool fields or whatever. And I was 8 years old.
So were you renting out time to play with the Legos? You weren't selling the Legos, you were keeping the Legos, you were renting them?
Businessman already.
When my father, he went to Germany and called the US so I was the first kid having VHS. So when my friends went to work, all my friends were by themselves in the house. And they come, I put all those chairs in the front of the TV, and they were paying me to watch the movies. And I had 3 movies. I had Commando, Rocky 1, and some kind of comedy. And the kid was coming always watch the same 3 movies. No, with the Coach Diamond.
By the way,
What is in the line 48,
Alright.
the categories, you guys do, what's in there? What element? Well, the EPDM, right? Right. Absolutely. So, that might be one. And also, if I were you, oh, no. Equals before the so you're setting to do a rate to an Great. That way, and then change the town to add.
So somewhere before this one.
You're trying to take that value. And if you want to give the town
The most.
that's the
When you try to pull
oh, I'm sorry, that was the input. To do that's the actual button. So mine for you, it should just be 2. Probably because you do array, because it was an undefined object. And so that's why if you initialize it as an empty array in the beginning, because the object itself does not have that much associated with it. So when we declare an empty array, JavaScript engines know that hey, this array is the question. Does that make sense? Get items with the value 1 parameter and then so whatever the date is, so we call it date. It would be So this will be your value. Remember, this has to be a string. And then this will be something like call it array.
So right now, I'm not going to be able to write the formula for it. But there is considered to be like
and then whatever the variable, and then you bring back. With our Ajax, that way, one part of JSON. So, basically you get this, and basically just turn it into a string. So it'll be quotes, brackets, and it'll be all your data inside. And then this will get rid of the string, and set whatever variable. Right. So what I would suggest is go to ATN. Select all the charts. Check out
I'm going to do that. So on our splice, we're going to connect it up. I just never tried to get it.
That's what we're trying to figure out. Which is fine. No, it's not, because it's not moving the one way you move. That's the problem. Off of the array itself, it's not moving that one way. Okay, but that's a because it's reloaded from the
How are people feeling? Do they need more time? Yes? Is anyone done? Almost? Almost? Okay, we'll give you about 10 more minutes. Okay. All right. Let's see what where you're at. Now what do you? What up in the array and then do what? You don't necessarily need to, so why don't we test it? Go to your page and go to console. Create an array. So now to array what? Put 0, comma 1. So the first thing you need to put is the first element, and then how many symbols, right? So 0 is the first one. You start with the first one. And then if you put 1, you put 1 element. Huh? Now if you look at back, it's 1 element. Put an array, you just type array and enter it. Are you on make progress? You stuck on anything or?
I just found out that I'm trying to remove an item that doesn't even exist in my list.
So in your, so there's a couple of ways to achieve that. First of all, in your to-do items, they have they keep track of what their index is, right? So you can start at 0. They'll have the to-do data or data to-do or something, right? Yeah, that's the number in the array that they're at, right?
Yes. We can set it up that way, and that's how we take it. But if you go to the array and delete some out, and then you go in there and add another item, you are now doing it. So how do we get around that? We're trying to do it. So we're trying to use basically we're deciding that we're going to go off of the string itself, like what the task is that you put in. So if the index of the task out of the array, so if the index of the array,
So why are you duplicating IDs? Are you decrementing the to-do count?
no, because I didn't say that there may be when I first write it, I missed the to-do count, so I didn't set it up as an array. So I'd have to rewrite my entire project in order to.
Oh, I see. You're using the length of the array.
I used arrays as the beginning. Really good. I live in Gilbert, like 5 minutes.
So you're right in that you can look at the text and you can just slice that number based on what it's indexed. Sure, you can do that too. It's more complicated, but it also works.
And that's what the docs are basically trying to work.
Fair enough. You guys finished? What are you still talking about?
I think I got it.
Alright, well, let me know.
Quality company. So did that did all that
But this is still good to know. Like this is things gotta have good pressure. Very
Yeah, like this is this is to show that it was like
I'd rather have a slice. This stuff is. It's not like a ton of code, right? Like the code do so much. Syntax is so know what it does. I mean, looking at an example and comparing it to this. What is it not doing correct?
Is everyone back in class, Stephanie? Are there any? Will you pull them in here? Okay. Thank you. Got it? Nice.
It was weird because like I had to like re-stringify for some reason. I didn't re-stringify after I removed it from the list. It
Interesting.
convert the entire array into just JSON string.
Interesting.
And then it wouldn't stay popular.
All right, we're gonna go over this. This one was a tough one, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so here is solution. This the solution one, like from the activity earlier today, right? Where you can go ahead and create to-dos. Everything's hunky dory. We're happy. Refresh. Damn, what a bummer. All right, so what's got to happen? We have to keep track of all the to-dos we're entering, right? And we need to add them to local storage. We need to, when we refresh the page, rebuild all the jQuery elements. So we need to pull them from local storage and rebuild them, right? And if we remove an item, we need to pull it from the array and update local storage. Remove it from jQuery, okay? So if we start from the solution, we have a lot of that code. We have removing from jQuery, we have adding to jQuery, and we have a count. but we don't have the array that we're going to be working with local storage. So there's this piece that's missing. And we don't have any code to rebuild this stuff when we come back after a refresh, right? So we need an array. We already know we need an array because we need to use something to store these to-dos as we create them. Okay? So the easiest thing to do is to come into this click handler and say, okay, every time we click in the click handler, we have to keep something, right? We have to keep track of something in that array. Here's the tricky question. What is it that's important to keep track of?
Well, we need the text of the to-do.
We need the text of the to-do. Do you need anything else?
Yeah, you need the count.
Do you? Why do you need the count? Doesn't the array implicitly keep the count? It does.
Well, actually, no, because you need to know what position it is in the list.
The array can do that for you when you rehydrate. We'll show you. So all we need to keep track of is the text. The count is a good thing to keep track of, but the array implicitly has the count. We don't need to keep the jQuery object. If we try to do that, we'll run into some problems that'll be really irritating. It'd be nice if you could take the jQuery object and just dump it back into jQuery. It'd be super simple and easy, but you know, life's unfair. So what do we got to do? We got to keep this to-do task, right? So right down here, after we increment the count, we can go ahead and take our to-do array, and we can push our to-do task. To-do task, right? Then we need to add this stuff to local storage. Local storage dot set item. Let's just make our key to-dos. And the hint said to use json.stringify on our to-do array. So how can we verify what this is doing? Well, we can come back here. Let's refresh our page. Let's open up this application and look at the local storage. Don't worry about that now. Test 1. Okay, you can see the value looks like an array. That's good. Test 2. Oh. Test 5. Tet 5. Anyway, we can see already that this looks like an array, right? It's got the brackets, it's got some strings in it, it's got the commas. It's literally how we would write the array in JavaScript if we were just hand keying this stuff in. So it's good. We can verify that that works. So what's the next step? Well, the most important thing is if we refresh this page. Wow, that was a bad one. If we refresh this page, the to-dos are not coming back, and we want them to come back. What? Yeah. Yeah, you know, it comes back every now and then. My wife really gets a kick out of that one. Like, who did I marry? Okay, so what do we got to do? This code right here in this click handler, we pretty much got to run it all again. Effectively. So why don't we create a function? Function. And we'll call it build to do. And it needs, to make this really reusable, what does it need? It effectively just needs text. Right? To do text. Alright. So we can go ahead and take everything pretty much after here. There's several ways you could do this. However you want to put this code, or however much of this code that you want to copy over is really up to you, because, I mean, there's a bunch of ways you could do it. But what I'm going to do is move all of it, including the to-do count increment and the to-do array push. And at that rate, I might as well just update local storage as well. Also. So this is going to work under the assumption that when we rebuild our jQuery objects, we don't have anything in this array. So this array should always start as nothing, right? Which it does here. So what can I do? I can replace all of this code, not that code, all of this code with our new build to do. Build to do. To do task. Okay. So let's verify that this still works. Clear local storage. Refresh. Seems to work. Okay? Good. Incremental testing is a good thing. So the click handler is much simpler now, right? There's not a whole lot going on. This is very much specific to what needs to happen in the click handler. But when we reload the page, existing to-dos, we need that array from local storage. So we can do json.parse is the opposite of JSON stringify. So when we're putting it in local storage, we have to use JSON stringify because only strings can be in local storage, right? So the opposite of that is JSON parse. So when I do local storage dot get item to-dos, it should parse it into some form of array, right? Now, there's a quandary. If I were to just do this like this, and we get a null item back from local storage, so we get nothing back, it's going to be an error. So what we should actually do, well, actually, I'll show you that first. Let's just console.log existing to-dos. And this should happen on refresh. So if I refresh, I look at the console, I get my array. There it is, in array form. Let's go ahead and go here, clear this, and let's refresh again. I just get null. So it's not necessarily an error, but it's a problem, right? Because null is not really a value we want. So there's a few ways we can handle it. We could check to see if there's a null value inside of a local storage get item. We could just see if existing to-dos equals null. A whole bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of ways you can check it. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you guys a trick. This is called, this is a defaulting way, a way you can default null variables in JavaScript. If I do the double pipe right here, and I put the array syntax, which just says, is if my JSON parse is null or undefined, I get an empty array. If it's not, if it's something, I'll get that. So if this evaluates to false, I'll get the empty array. If this evaluates to true, I won't. It's a way to take advantage of the truthiness in JavaScript. So now if I look at this, unless I get the weird string value, and I refresh, I have an empty array instead of null. This is a really hacky thing that JavaScript lets you do that is used everywhere, so you should get used to it. That's why I felt like I could show you. So anyway, that's how we guarantee that at worst, what we have is an empty array. Now, the reason why I'm guaranteeing that we have an empty array instead of just using null and checking is if I have an empty array, I can still write a for loop over the array, right? And just check against the length. I is 0 while I is less than the length, but the length is always 0, so the for loop will never execute. So what happens is I don't have to have an if statement to check if my array is empty. I can just always execute the for loop, and if there's nothing in it, nothing will happen. So it's a way to take code out of my application but still get the same effect. So what I can do here is for var I equals 0, I is less than existing to-dos dot length. Nope, not local storage. Dot length I plus plus. Var to-do text equals existing to-dos. We have to go into the to-do and get the value out at that point in the array, and then we could just simply run build to-do with our new to-do text. So if I'm right, this should, if I didn't write any errors, this should rehydrate our to-dos as soon as we refresh the page. So test 1, test 2, test 3. If I refresh, they're back. Okay? So we've taken care of that part. The last thing we have is if we go over here, we remove a to-do, you'll notice then local storage is not being updated, so if I refresh, my to-dos are back. That's not what we want. What was that? We have to delete the array. That's one way to handle it. We have to manipulate that array, right? Oh, delete the array item. Yeah, we need to delete the array item. That's exactly right. Okay, so we have the to-do number here, which might come out as a number. It might come out as a string. I haven't console logged it, so I don't know. But we do know it's supposed to be a number, so an easy way to guarantee it is we can run parseInt on it. The reason why I'm trying to guarantee that it's a number is getting the array index with a string won't work. I mean, it might in JavaScript because JavaScript is crazy, but it shouldn't. So I'm going to make sure that this is a number, just so I have a real number here. Then what I can do is I can take the to-do array. I can go ahead and splice starting at to-do number. So you can see right here the splice function. If you were to look it up in MDM, it has two parameters in this version. The first one is start, which is a number, and the second one is delete count, which is a number. So what it's saying is, what index are you starting at? So for instance, if I want to delete the first item, I could start at 0, right? And then delete count is how many items are you deleting? If I want to delete one, if I want to delete just the first item, it'd be 0, 1. I want to start at the first index and delete one item. If I wanted to delete 5 items, I could do 0, 5. If I wanted to delete everything, I could do 0. Get rid of everything. And by delete, I don't mean it's deleting the items. It's just taking them out of the array and putting them in a new array, which you could actually console log out if you wanted to do. But anyway, to-do number, because that's the index we want to start at, and we want to delete 1. We're only deleting that item, right? Then what we need to do, local storage dot set item, to-dos, JSON.stringify our to-do array. Alright. See if this works. Let's refresh. Look at that. In local storage, it's changing. If I refresh, it's exactly what I expect. So I have 5 different items. I can refresh. Everything's hunky-dory. Delete items at any random point in the array. Comes back how I would expect. No problem. Any questions? Okay, well, we'll slack out the solution. Yeah, Jesse, you had a question?
No, I'm just looking at my book.
I'm going to suspect that this little trick doesn't make sense to everyone right now. Probably not to very many of you. So I'll try to write it out and see if I can explain it. Well, here. Can anyone explain to me what's happening on line 103? What's actually happening at the JavaScript? If I were to write it out, yeah, what? What are you gonna say?
Well, basically what it's doing is it's doing a inline like if check. Basically saying if the JSON parse comes back with a value, then set the variable equal to that. Otherwise, set equal to an empty
array, because that's our default value. So basically, that's exactly right. JavaScript has this idea of truthiness, right? Does everyone remember what truthiness is? Every value in JavaScript evaluates either true or false. Empty strings are false. Null and undefined are false. 0 is false. False is false. And I think everything else is true. Even an empty array is considered true. So what this is we have this var existing to-dos, and we'll just say it equals nothing, right? So it can do var local value equals json.parse local storage dot get item to-dos. So this is that first part, okay? If local value, this is where we take advantage of the truthiness. So if local value, what that means is if the value I'm pulling out of local storage has a truthy value, so if it's not 0, not an empty string, not null, not undefined, or not false, this if clause is going to evaluate, okay? So it'll say existing to-dos equals local value. Else, existing to-dos equals empty array, because empty array evaluates to true in a truthiness check. That right there, line 106 to 110, is what's happening in that, or line 107, no, 105 to 111, sorry, I can't read. This block right here is what's happening in this one single line right there. Okay, so you're going to see this in the real world in JavaScript. So I figured I would take some time to explain it. And does this make more sense now if you can compare the two? I know it's still a bit ambiguous and it's kind of hard to read. Like, literally the exact same thing. One of them is 6 lines of code shorter, and it's, once you understand how it's working, it's not too bad, right? And it's a lot less code. Anyway, that's why I decided to do that. Any other questions on this?
Yeah. Can you go back to your working page?
Uh-huh. Yeah, let me comment this out. This is going to cause problems. Okay.
And then, so, erase your local storage.
Okay.
And then start over, just add a few things. So now if you were to delete 2, it updates. Now refresh your page and try to delete 3. Mine is delete, like if I, after I update, if I refresh and then delete something, it deletes the one previous to it instead of that actual one.
Are you using to-do count to delete stuff? Or using...
Yes.
That's probably why it starts at 0.
Well, no. I did what you did there. I parsed the to-do number and then I'm splicing off the to-do number.
Okay, I'd have to look at your code to help you. But you can compare it to our solution and then we can help you after class, if you'd like. Anyway, I'll send out my solution and the TAs can Slack out the actual solution, because I don't know how it differs. And you guys can compare them to yours. And then in just a moment, we'll have one of Chris, you're going to come talk about the homework. Chris, talk about the homework. So this is the same as line 103. So let me Slack this out. Alright, you should have both my solution and the actual provided solution. Okay, let me get the homework stuff ready for Chris. Alright, I'm ready for you whenever you're good to go, Chris. Alright, this is the basic one. Here, I'll open both. So this tab right here is the basic one. This tab right here is the rock, paper, scissors one.
Okay. Alright, so anytime is train time. This is basically an application where you're going to be building kind of the ability to add a train down here. So this would be you're an administrator for the train station and you know when the trains are coming and going. So you'll add a train there. And then up here, you can either, display that for employees to know when the trains are coming and going, or for, customers, blah, blah, blah. All this is kind of in one user interface here. This would probably be like the dashboard for an employee, but let's get into the actual instructions for it. Well, I guess does this work? Okay. All right. Yeah. So we're gonna actually add a train, and we're gonna name it U of A Coding Boot Camp. Right, and then we're gonna do destination is gonna be graduation, and the first train time, let's see, it's gonna be hours and minutes and military time, so we're gonna put 14:30, and the frequency should be every 30 minutes. So let's submit that guy real quick. Train successfully added. Looks like it's probably not going to show up. Yeah, so this isn't actually hooked up to a backend, but you guys see the kind of the input there that we want. So let's move over to, oh, goes this way. Scheduler. Okay, so here's the actual instructions. In this assignment, you'll create a train schedule application that incorporates Firebase. So all of basically you want to be sending all that data, the input, you want to be sending it over to Firebase for persistence, right? So what we're kind of doing right now is we're learning, what we've been going over today is like the kind of the build up to persisting our data inside of kind of a backend system. And so what you're going to be using is this Firebase's kind of server database set up there, and you're going to, here's the instructions. Make sure your app suits this basic spec. When adding trains, administrators should be able to submit the following: train name, destination, first train time and military time, and frequency. Code this app to calculate when the next train will arrive. This should be relative to the current time. Users from many different machines must be able to see the same train times. Styling and theme are completely up to you. Now, if each of us here was an administrator for the train organization, we would want to be able to see this individually. That's why we're persisting it in a backend somewhere else, and we're going to access it through an API. So that's kind of the point of this. So again, I think that the most important thing is the logic behind this. We want that to work. I would not go any more fancy than what they have right here for displaying this. And remember, look up HTML tables. That'll help you kind of get everything set up right here, looking similar to this. And then here you're going to use, forms. Let's see. If you're not finished with the basic functionality, don't worry about the bonus stuff. And then it looks like there's also, instead of the basic one, which is the train, you've also got the challenge. The challenge is going to be a lot harder. And what this one is like a rock, paper, scissors, another rock, paper, scissors app. And basically you're going to make it an online multiplayer game, all with the help of Firebase. So basically you'll make it where two people can play with each other over the internet. Huh?
Sounds so good.
All right. There's a first time for everything, and I've never. Yeah. Anyways. Okay. So create a game. Instructions. Create a game that suits this user story. Only 2 users are able to participate at the same time. Both players will pick either rock, paper, or scissors. After the player makes their selection, the game will tell them whether a tie occurred or if one player defeated the other. The game will track each player's wins and losses. Throw some chat functionality in there. No online multiplayer game is complete without having to endure endless taunts and insults from your opponent. Styling and theme are completely up to you. Get creative. Deploy your assignment to GitHub pages. This one is probably going to be, if you're not like fully understanding all the concepts up till now, I wouldn't really try this one because you might get behind. But definitely, if you feel like you've grasped everything, this would be a fun challenge. And then I wanted to talk about submitting. So we want to make sure that we have this deployed to GitHub pages, and when you submit your homework, that there's a link to not only your repo but also your pages. And the reason why we ask that is because we want to be able to see your code. If you're having a problem, we need to be able to see what it is so we can help you solve that. I think that's about it. Any questions? All right, good luck, guys.
Free to go. Hey, Chris, one of the TAs, when is this homework going to be due? Next? It'll be on the calendar? Okay, look at Bootcamp Spot. Let me pull it up. Okay, Wednesday, a week and a half for us, and then probably a Thursday for you, I think. Yeah. Let me look. Let's see if it's up there. This one is due on the 19th. And for you guys, it's due on the 20th.